All right, let's kick things off with a little thought experiment. Imagine you're in a Formula One race, but your pit stop takes 2 full days. Sounds insane, right? Well, that's pretty much what was happening in India's big global financial hub, GIFT IFSC. Today, we're diving into a massive upgrade that took their financial system from a snail's pace to, well, light speed. Let's jump right in.
36 to 48 hours. Just let that sink in. In a world where you can stream a movie in seconds, that is an absolute eternity. And you know, in global finance, where things can change in a literal millisecond, a delay like that isn't just slow, it's a massive risk. For a long time, this was just the way things were, and it was a huge problem.
Yeah, you heard that right. Even for transactions between banks that were basically next-door neighbors in the same financial city, it could take up to 2 whole days for the money to actually land. I mean, this wasn't just a slow lane, it was a full-blown bumper-to-bumper traffic jam on what was supposed to be a financial superhighway.
So the big question is, why? Why on earth was it so slow? Well, before we can really appreciate the new solution, we've got to get our heads around the old problem. So let's do that. Let's unpack exactly how money used to move around.
Okay, so the old system was basically this crazy, complicated international relay race. To get money from Bank A to Bank B, again, even if they were in the same city, the payment had to be handed off from one bank to another, often bouncing through banks in totally different countries. And you can imagine each one of these handoffs or hops just added more time, more cost, and honestly, more chances for something to go wrong.
But thankfully, that's all history now. It's time to meet the hero of this story, the Foreign Currency Settlement System, or FCSS for short. This thing was designed from the ground up to completely replace that old, clunky relay race with a brand new, direct, digital superhighway.
So what is this thing exactly? Well, the FCSS is a centralized payment system, located right there in GIFT IFSC. The best way to think about it is like a central hub, kind of like an airport hub, that all the banks plug directly into. So instead of that tangled web of correspondent banks all over the world, you now have one single, super efficient system handling everything.
And look, the difference here is it's just night and day. We're talking about going from a 48-hour wait time down to practically instant. We're swapping out that whole mess of middlemen for one clean central system. And this is the big one. We're getting rid of something called settlement risk. That's the scary possibility that one bank pays its side of the deal, but the other one doesn't. With the new system, every transaction is final and locked in the second it happens. Huge.
Okay, so how does this new financial superhighway actually work under the hood? Let's follow the money and trace the transaction's new lightning-fast journey through the FSCS.
And you know what? It's actually a beautifully simple 4-step process. First, a bank kicks off the payment. The FCS system then instantly validates all the details, checking for any mistakes. Then, and this is super important, it goes through a security check called sanction screening. And once it gets the green light, boom, the funds settle instantly. No more waiting around, no more passing the baton.
Let's double-click on that security gate for just a second, because it's really critical. Every single transaction that goes through the system gets automatically checked against all these global sanctions lists, from the UN, the US, the EU, you name it. If everything's clean, it just zips right through. But if it raises a red flag, what they call a hit, the whole thing is stopped in its tracks, and the funds can be frozen while it's investigated. This big security right into the very heart of the system.
Now, this is where the magic really happens. See, every bank in the system has a special digital account called an FGSS settlement ledger account. As soon as the system takes the money from the sender's ledger and puts it into the receiver's ledger, that's it. The deal is done. It's legally final, it's irrevocable, it cannot be undone. This gives everyone absolute certainty and, like we said, just wipes out that settlement risk.
Okay, but how can it be instant? That's the really clever part. The whole system uses a central pot of money called the FCSS pool account. The easiest way to picture it is like a shared digital wallet. All the member banks put money into this wallet at the beginning of the day. So because the cash is already sitting right there in the system, moving it between their accounts is just a digital entry. It happens in a flash. No more waiting for money to be wired in from overseas.
All right, I know what you're probably thinking. With all this speed, is it actually safe? And the answer is a huge, resounding yes. And that's because a super robust risk management framework was built into this thing from day one. So the system is designed to tackle 3 main kinds of risk head-on. First, you've got operational risk. That's stuff like a system crashing or someone making a mistake.
Then, of course, there's cybersecurity risk, which is a massive deal. And finally, there's settlement bank risk, which is basically the risk tied to the specific bank that's in charge of that central pool of money. And to fight against these risks, they've built a defense with multiple layers. We're talking serious disaster recovery plans in case something goes wrong, a top-of-the-line cybersecurity framework, super strict rules for picking the settlement bank, and on top of that, every single member bank has to go through a security audit every year. And that settlement bank, its work for the FSCS is legally ring-fenced, which just means it's kept in a totally separate box from the rest of its business to keep the system's money safe.
And this right here, this quote from the official rules, is probably the most important piece of the puzzle. It means that the money sitting in that main FCSS pool account is legally bulletproof. It's bankruptcy remote. So, in plain English, even if the bank managing the money got into serious financial trouble, the funds in this system would be totally untouched and safe. That is a massive legal protection.
Okay, so let's pull back and look at the big picture. We've gone through how it works and we know that it's safe, but so what? Why does this really matter? What's the actual impact of this whole thing? Well, here are the big takeaways. First, the speed. It's a total game changer. The efficiency is just off the charts. It slashes complexity and costs for all the banks involved. It massively reduces risk, which, let's be honest, is the name of the game in modern finance. And when you put all of that together, it makes GIFT IFSC a way more attractive and competitive spot on the global map for finance. At the end of the day, this isn't just some boring technical upgrade. It's a huge strategic move. The FCSS is the kind of critical infrastructure that really puts India on the map. It's proof that it can build and run the kind of super fast, super secure environment that big-time global finance absolutely demands. And that leaves us with a really exciting question to think about. When you take a 2-day delay and just delete it, making every transaction instant and final, what new doors does that open? What does it make possible? Could we see brand new kinds of high-speed trading? Or more sophisticated financial products? Maybe even entirely new markets being born? This new superhighway isn't just the end of an old, slow road. It's the on-ramp to who knows how many new destinations.